True crime podcasts are typically huge draws for audience. So what happens when an Irishwoman, an Englander, and an American examine a missing persons case in a tiny Irish town? Well, you get the Netflix dark comedic mystery Bodkin. On the surface, it looks intriguing. But is it worth the watch? A group of podcasters set out to investigate the mysterious disappearance of three strangers in an idyllic Irish town. But when they start to pull the strings, they find a story much bigger and stranger than they could have imagined. The three main characters of Dove, Emmy, and Gilbert are played by Siobhán Cullen, Robyn Cara, and Will Forte, respectively. They have a dysfunctional but snarky and effective dynamic, antagonizing each other because of just their individual quirks. And then the banter that's shared between the trio, it's genuinely humorous, but not an American sensibility. I mean, it has a very UK type of delivery, which is droll and subtle, but still bitingly hilarious. And even though this is billed as a comedic mystery series, I wasn't prepared for how drawn into the enigma I would be. The mystery, it is layered and intricate, with continued twists and complications. Now, this doesn't mean that the story keeps piling on complexities every time a new clue is discovered, but there are enough sprinkled throughout the episodes to keep a steady helping of intrigue flowing. Now, at the heart of the narrative, there is a whodunit that provided me many opportunities to guess and be wrong, which is what's needed so that the interest just doesn't wane over the 7 episodes. Multiple times I thought I'd figured out many of the answers, but when reveals come, I was delightfully off base, happy to be misled. Because, I mean, come on, nothing's worse than watching a mystery that you can figure out well before any resolution is delivered. Now, almost all of the characters we meet, they're semi-devious with differing levels of sketchiness. So many people are hiding secrets. Some because they just don't trust the outsiders who have entered into their town for the podcast, and then the rest because of events that have happened decades earlier involving a Samhain festival and some missing young people. And while this is like many other tales of small-town secrets, the presentation, it feels fresh and very engaging. I was having fun with all of the treachery and the double crosses that come about at random times. These keep the excitement at the forefront, but also then work with the misdirection to create all these twists. Now, for the characters, I loved all 3 of the main players because each brings different nuances and dynamics to the trio. Will Forte is situationally funny, but playing a serious and sometimes uptight character. He's the podcaster who gets all 3 involved in the inquiry, and because of personal and then internal struggles, he's a bit dour, even haunted. And I like how this mindset helps to direct his actions and his motivations. The choices he makes can sometimes be desperate out of necessity, which then makes for a fascinating persona. Siobhán Cullen's Dove is very rough around the edges, playing a reporter for The Guardian who has zero interest in being paired with the podcaster and his researcher. She's gruff, annoyed, generally pissed off about life. And the more we get to know her, the deeper her character traits become, building out a twisting arc that complements and builds on the main narrative. Now, some of the problems that she encounters, they feel unnecessarily exacerbated just to create opportunities for other intricacies, but they do all converge eventually, so these elements ultimately aren't useless distractions. And the reason she's even assigned to the podcasters is given more prominence than it deserves, but it does make for an effective MacGuffin for her inclusion. Plus, her journalistic intuition, it helps to uncover answers to our mystery. And then finally, Robyn Cara as Emmy gets to display a great amount of professional maturation, going from a meek researcher who's timid and lacking confidence, and then she transitions to a strong and self-assured character. Now, it did take me a moment to begin to just take her character seriously, because I've most recently been watching her in the Apple series Trying, where she plays a ditzy young woman who's only interested in hooking up and partying. Here, Emmy is way more complex and deep. She also adds a layer of softness to both Dove and Gilbert, giving them more humanity than what they initially display. Now, the aesthetics of the show, they are wonderfully crafted. From the environments and locations to the set designs, even the costumes. I mean, the town feels very lived in. It's tangible and real, where the people, they're close-knit and mainly working class, and then suspicious of outsiders, while also having semi-impenetrable personas. And the people match the grittiness of some of the town. I mean, they're not grimy or filthy. They just have this tiny layer of sketchiness that alludes to many secrets that are being held. Now, I was enjoying the musical score in this too. A lot of it sounds like it drew inspiration from Sherlock Holmes and either the BBC series or the Guy Ritchie films. There's just this certain similarity that helps to add a bit more intrigue to the story while also containing a bit of levity or maybe bounce. And I'm not sure that's how it really should be described, but if you are familiar with those scores, you can kind of get the idea. Now, for the majority of the show, the narrative is straightforward without odd tangents or repetitive elements. But one segment in episode 5 strangely repeats a large section of a previous scene. We're shown an event a second and then a third time from different perspectives, which I think is good. But then the sequences continue to show us the exact same interactions we had just seen a few minutes earlier. I mean, I'm all for different angles, but this added unnecessary time when all we really needed to be shown were the areas that we had not previously been shown. Now, each of the 7 episodes hover in that 45 to 50-ish minute range. Thankfully, there's a continued urgency to the pacing. Storytelling, it takes its time and it doesn't rush the mystery, but it also doesn't drag things out, short of that repetitive sequence that I had just mentioned. I mean, I was hooked, and I was loving the effective mix of humor and intrigue, both being balanced so as not to counteract the other. And the entire cast, it is varied, so we get a good mix of players that could be suspects or culprits, or could just simply work as misdirections to keep the truth obscured until just the right moments. Cullen, Cara, and Forte share a spectacular dynamic, each complementing the other to reinforce quirks while also bringing unique aspects to life. Some of the plot elements, they feel a bit thin or contrived, especially in regards to Cullen's character involvement, but these aren't worrisome enough to create a massive detriment to the overall arcs. There are also small story bits that could be cut as they minorly serve to inform character traits and motivations, but just like with Cullen's character, these aren't major issues that can't be overlooked. Now, I'm not sure if more seasons are planned, but thanks to the chemistry of the lead trio and the excellent mix of comedy and mystery, if there's another season, it will be on my list to watch. There's sex, nudity, a ton of profanity, and then a lot of violence. I give Bodkin 4.5 out of 5 couches. This was a fun and engaging mystery. I hope you get as much enjoyment as I did from it. So have you seen any good mysteries lately? I'd love to hear about them in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.